This snake may seem colossal to you, but what you are about to see will amaze you even more. Deep in the lush forests of Dominica, something truly massive was discovered. A boa constrictor of jaw-dropping size unlike anything seen before was found clinging to a tree. The workers who stumbled upon it had no idea they were about to face a serpent so big that even lifting it required heavy machinery. The sheer thickness of its body was enough to send shivers down the spine. It wasn't just a big snake, it was a giant, a true jungle behemoth. This wasn't the kind of snake that slithers past unnoticed. It hung like a fallen tree limb, its massive coils wrapped around the branches, staring down with its dark, lifeless eyes. The moment footage of the creature surfaced, the internet exploded. People debated whether something this large could even exist outside of legend. To move the snake, workers had to use a crane. Yes, a crane, just to hoist it down from its perch. Its weight was staggering. Even when suspended mid-air, it looked like it could crush anything beneath it with a single drop. The sheer effort needed to remove it was something straight out of a nightmare, but the biggest question was, how long had it been growing? A boa constrictor can live decades, growing larger and stronger with each passing year. Could there be more of these lurking deep in the untouched wilderness, hidden away where few dare to venture? If this one had gone unnoticed for so long, who's to say there aren't others, even bigger, waiting in the dense green shadows? And just like that, the massive boa of Dominica vanished, taken away in the back of a truck. No one knows what happened to it after that. Some say it was relocated, others believe it was too big to be safely contained. But one thing's for sure, this was one of the largest snakes ever captured on camera, and it left the world wondering, just how big can these monsters really get? Deep in the heart of Kansas City, hidden inside the edge of hell haunted house, something far more terrifying than ghosts or ghouls waits in the darkness. A living creature so enormous that it stretches longer than a school bus. This is Medusa, the longest captive snake in the world, a 25-foot, 2-inch-long reticulated python that sends chills down the spine of anyone who sees her. Her name is fitting. When she lifts her head and stares, it's enough to make anyone freeze in place. Weighing an astonishing 350 pounds, she isn't just long, she's powerful. Each coil is like a living muscle, strong enough to squeeze the life out of anything that gets too close. If she were in the wild, she'd be an apex predator, capable of taking down deer, wild boar, even crocodiles. But here's the most unsettling part. Medusa isn't done growing. Reticulated pythons keep getting bigger for most of their lives, and no one really knows where the limit is. She's already broken records, officially recognized as the longest captive snake ever measured, but how much more can she grow? Could she reach 30 feet? Could she get even bigger than the legendary man-eating pythons of the past? When she's not feeding, she moves with an eerie slowness, as if she knows she has nothing to fear. Workers at the haunted house say she can be unpredictable, calm one moment, coiled and tense the next. A creature this large has no natural predators. It moves through its world without doubt, without hesitation, like a force of nature. She's been featured in documentaries, studied by reptile experts, and stared at in awe by thousands of visitors. But no camera, no description can truly capture what it feels like to stand next to 25 feet of living, breathing reptile. When Medusa moves, the entire room feels smaller. There's no mistaking it. This is a true giant, the kind of snake that should belong to another era, a prehistoric beast that somehow ended up in our world. Deep in the dense jungles of Indonesia, where thick vines twist through the trees and sunlight barely reaches the ground, something massive was lurking. A reticulated python, so enormous that an entire village had to step in just to deal with it. It started with strange noises at night, branches cracking, animals vanishing. Then one day, a group of villagers stumbled upon something unbelievable. A python so thick and long that it looked like a fallen tree, until it moved. Its scales shimmered like wet metal, its body coiled around a massive tree trunk, and its head, broad and triangular, turned toward the people watching. This was no ordinary snake. The villagers, armed with nothing but sticks and machetes, knew they had to be careful. A python this size could take down a human with ease. Some say it was over 30 feet long, thick as an oil drum. It had been living deep in the forest, hidden from human eyes, growing larger every year. How long had it been there? How many times had people passed by unaware they were being watched by a true jungle monster? When they finally managed to subdue the snake, it took dozens of people to lift it. The images spread across the internet like wildfire. people standing next to a creature so massive it hardly looked real. Experts debated its true size, but one thing was clear. This was one of the biggest snakes ever recorded in the wild. No one knows if there are more like it, hidden in the uncharted depths of the Indonesian rainforest. But after seeing what just one of them looks like, the thought of others lurking in the shadows is enough to make anyone hesitate before stepping into the jungle. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where creatures grow beyond imagination, something emerged from the jungle that shook the world. A colossal snake, so massive that even military-grade machinery was needed to lift it from the ground. It dangled from two enormous cranes, its lifeless body swaying like a fallen titan, its head as large as a grown man's torso, its eyes still holding that cold, unblinking stare of a predator. The footage spread like wildfire. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. This wasn't just a big snake, it was a monster. Its sheer thickness rivaled a tree trunk, its scales shimmering like armor under the brutal Amazon sun. Some estimated its length at 50 feet or more, a size that would dwarf any officially recorded anaconda. But that wasn't the most chilling part. The military vehicles surrounding the snake raised even more questions. Soldiers stood nearby, their weapons useless against something this enormous. Why was military equipment involved? Had this thing been hunted? Had it attacked something or someone? Some claim the snake was discovered during a highly classified operation, its body quickly taken away, never to be seen again. And then, the real mystery began. No official records, no follow-up reports, no scientific examination. It was as if the snake had never existed. Had it been covered up? Destroyed? Or worse, was it captured alive? If something this unbelievably massive could remain hidden in the Amazon for so long, what else is still out there waiting to be found? Deep in the wild heart of Brazil, where the jungle meets the rivers, a construction crew working on a hydroelectric dam made a terrifying discovery. As the team was clearing out a section of dense forest, they noticed something massive shifting beneath the debris. What they found was a green anaconda of unimaginable size, a creature so enormous that it left even seasoned workers in stunned silence. The snake was reported to be over 50 feet long, its body as thick as a grown man, its head wide enough to swallow a human whole. It had been living undisturbed for decades, growing larger and stronger, hidden away in the depths of the Amazon. When the crew attempted to remove it, they realized no single machine could handle its weight alone. This wasn't just a large snake. This was a living relic of an era when reptiles ruled the earth. Footage of the monstrous anaconda quickly surfaced, sparking heated debates. Some experts called it an exaggeration, saying that no snake could grow that large. But the workers who saw it firsthand had no doubts. They had looked into its cold black eyes. They had seen its body coil and flex powerful enough to crush steel. What happened next remains unclear. Some say the anaconda was killed in the process of excavation, while others claim it was captured and taken away by authorities. But then, the story disappeared. No official records, no scientific reports. Just grainy videos and rumors, whispered by those who were there. If a 50-foot snake was pulled from the depths of the jungle, how many more remain, unseen and untouched, lurking beneath the dark waters of the Amazon? It started as just another traffic jam in Malaysia, but as drivers grew impatient, trying to see what was blocking the road ahead, they realized something unbelievable was in their path. A massive, living creature stretched across the highway, longer than a bus, its scales glistening under the streetlights. A reticulated python, one of the largest ever caught on camera, had completely stopped traffic. It was so long that it spanned both lanes, forcing cars and motorcycles to a dead stop. Its body was thick, muscular, and pulsing with raw power, its slow movement sending waves of unease through the crowd gathering around it. Some tried to snap pictures, others just stared in shock, unable to comprehend how anything could grow this large. The python, estimated at over 30 feet long, seemed completely unfazed by the chaos it had caused. It had likely slithered out of the nearby forest, crossing the road in search of prey or shelter. But when local authorities arrived, things took a dark turn. As they tried to move the snake off the road, it lashed out, lightning fast, jaws wide open, proving that despite its massive size, it was still a predator, still a killer. It took several men, ropes, and extreme caution to finally remove it, a process that lasted for hours. Some claim the snake was relocated back into the wild, others say it didn't survive the encounter. But one thing is certain, that night, hundreds of people saw something that didn't belong on a modern highway. A reminder that deep in the forests of Malaysia, creatures beyond imagination still exist, and sometimes they come a little too close. Long before humans walked the earth, monsters ruled the swamps, and none were more terrifying than Titanoboa, a snake so enormous that it made today's anacondas look like garden snakes. 42 feet long, weighing over a ton, this prehistoric serpent wasn't just the largest snake ever, it was one of the most dominant predators of its time. Over 60 million years ago, deep in the steaming jungles of what is now Colombia, Titanoboa stalked the rivers, crushing crocodile-sized prey with earth-shattering force. For years no one knew it had ever existed. But in 2009, deep in a coal mine in South America, scientists uncovered something shocking. The fossilized remains of a vertebra bigger than a human skull. At first they thought it belonged to a giant crocodile. But when more bones were found, the truth became clear. They had just discovered the biggest snake to ever exist. To put it into perspective, Titanoboa was longer than a bus and as heavy as a car. It could crush its victims with over 400 pounds of force per square inch, enough to snap bones like twigs. No warm-blooded animal could challenge it. It was the undisputed ruler of its prehistoric world. But then, it vanished. As the world cooled and jungles shrank, Titanoboa disappeared, leaving only its fossils behind. Or at least that's what scientists believe. Some claim that deep in the uncharted rivers of the Amazon, something massive still lurks beneath the surface. Something that moves like a shadow, unseen, waiting. Could there still be descendants of Titanoboa, hidden in the depths of the jungle? Could the monster snake of the past still haunt the rivers of the present? No one knows for sure, but every now and then, whispers of impossibly large snakes surface. Glimpses of something huge, something that shouldn't exist, but just might. In the dense, unexplored jungles of the Congo, where legends of strange creatures have persisted for centuries, a military pilot saw something that defied logic. A snake so massive it could be seen from the air. It was the 1950s, and a Belgian Air Force pilot was flying over the remote forests of the Katanga region when something on the ground caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a fallen tree, stretching across a dirt road, but then, it moved. The snake lifted its head, its body coiled like a prehistoric beast, its length estimated at 50 feet or more. Stunned, the pilot immediately circled back for another look. The snake, now aware of the aircraft, reared up, as if challenging the machine above it. According to the pilot, it lifted its head nearly 10 feet off the ground, its scales glinting in the sunlight. He was so shocked that he grabbed his camera and snapped a photograph, one that would later become one of the most controversial images in cryptozoology history. When the photograph surfaced, experts were divided. Some said there was no way a snake could grow that big, that it must have been a trick of perspective or an optical illusion. Others weren't so sure. The Congo is home to some of the largest pythons and anacondas in the world. Could one have grown beyond anything ever recorded? To this day, no one knows for sure. The photograph still circulates, fueling theories, debates, and hushed whispers of something massive lurking in the Congo basin. Could a Mokele snake, something beyond science, still exist in the shadows of the rainforest? If a 50-foot serpent could be seen from the sky, what else is moving unseen through the depths of the jungle? Perhaps the real question isn't whether this snake was real. It's whether something even bigger is still out there. We've seen giants of the past and legendary behemoths, but now it's time to meet the true rulers of the modern world. Up next, the largest snake species alive today, creatures so massive they defy belief. Deep in the murky waters of the Amazon, a shadow moves beneath the surface. Silent, massive, coiled like a thick rope of muscle. The Green Anaconda, the undisputed heavyweight of the snake world. It doesn't need venom. It doesn't need speed. It only needs its sheer bulk and strength to dominate. This snake isn't just big, it's colossal. Some individuals stretch beyond 20 feet, but what really sets them apart is their weight. A full-grown female can tip the scales at 500 pounds, making her the heaviest snake alive. To put that into perspective, that's heavier than a full-grown lion. Unlike other large pythons that slither through trees, the anaconda is built for water. Thick, powerful, and almost too heavy to move efficiently on land, it glides through swamps and rivers like an underwater tank. It hunts in a way that sends a shiver down the spine. An anaconda doesn't chase. It lurks, it waits. A capybara takes a sip at the water's edge, completely unaware that a living coil of muscle is beneath the surface. Then, sudden chaos. The water explodes, and in a second, the anaconda's jaws clamp down. There's no escape. It wraps its victim in an unbreakable grip, each breath making the squeeze tighter until there's nothing left but stillness. These giants can swallow prey that seems impossible: deer, wild pigs, even jaguars. The elastic jaws stretch wide, the ribs expand, and over hours, sometimes days, an anaconda devours its meal whole. Once full, it might not need to eat again for weeks. Despite their intimidating size, green anacondas rarely bother humans. Myths and exaggerated stories paint them as man-eaters, but real attacks are extremely rare. Most encounters end with the snake slipping back into the water, vanishing like it was never there. There are big snakes, and then there's the reticulated python, a living rope of scales that seems to stretch on forever. While the green anaconda holds the title for weight, the reticulated python is the undisputed champion of length. The longest ever recorded measured over 32 feet, longer than a school bus. This snake is pure muscle, a predator built to constrict with terrifying precision. Found across Southeast Asia, from Indonesia to the Philippines, it weaves through jungles, marshes, and even bustling villages. Despite its immense size, it moves with an eerie grace, slipping through trees, disappearing into rivers, coiling through the underbrush without a sound. The reticulated python's hunting style is like something out of a horror story. It strikes fast, faster than the eye can follow, sinking its needle-sharp teeth into flesh. Then the real terror begins. In an instant, coils wrap around its prey, tightening with every exhale. The more the victim struggles, the tighter the grip becomes. Seconds pass, then stillness. These snakes don't discriminate when it comes to food. Monkeys, pigs, deer, anything that fits inside its gaping mouth is on the menu. There are even documented cases of reticulated pythons swallowing humans. Though rare, they've been found with a full-grown person inside. Their massive bodies stretch to unnatural shapes as they digest their enormous meals. In the wild, these giants are formidable, but in captivity, they become even larger. Some of the world's longest pythons have been found in zoos and snake farms, where food is plentiful and danger is minimal. Yet despite their size and reputation, reticulated pythons are surprisingly vulnerable. Poaching, habitat destruction, and the exotic pet trade have made life increasingly difficult for these giants. But as long as there are untouched jungles and hidden rivers, the longest snake on Earth will continue to slither through the shadows, growing, hunting, and waiting. In the heart of the Florida Everglades, an unexpected predator has taken over. It wasn't always here, but now, it's everywhere. The Burmese python, one of the largest snakes on the planet, has turned Florida's wetlands into its hunting ground. Originally from Southeast Asia, these massive snakes, some reaching 18 feet or more, were once common in the exotic pet trade. People bought them as hatchlings, small and harmless. But a few years later, when that cute little snake had grown to over 10 feet, eating chickens and rabbits whole, owners panicked. Many released them into the wild, thinking they wouldn't survive. They were wrong. Florida, with its warm climate and endless swamps, turned out to be the perfect home. The Burmese python thrived. It had no natural predators, and its favorite prey, raccoons, deer, even alligators, was everywhere. Populations of native animals started to plummet. Over 90% of small mammals in some areas have disappeared, all swallowed into the stomachs of these silent hunters. Now Florida is in an all-out war against these invaders. Hunters roam the Everglades at night, searching for the next massive python to capture. The state even holds python hunting competitions where people compete to remove as many as possible. Some of the ones they catch are terrifyingly large. Yet even with all the efforts, the Burmese python isn't going anywhere. They breed fast, they hide well, and they've already spread far beyond the Everglades. Some experts say the invasion is unstoppable. The Everglades, once ruled by alligators, now has a new top predator slithering through the swamps. The giant that should have never been here but now refuses to leave. In the vast savannas of Africa, where lions, hyenas, and crocodiles rule, another predator lurks. One without claws, without venom, without legs. The African rock python, a snake so powerful that even apex predators have learned to avoid it. This is Africa's largest snake, sometimes reaching 20 feet, thick as a man's thigh and packed with nothing but muscle. This python isn't subtle. Unlike its more elusive relatives, it is aggressive, territorial, and ready to fight if threatened. Its massive body is covered in earth-tone camouflage, blending perfectly into dry grass and rocky terrain. It waits in silence, coiled beneath the shade, watching. Then, when the moment is right, it strikes. The force of its attack is brutal. Its jaws snap shut, lined with hundreds of curved teeth that hook into flesh. Once the grip is locked, there is no escape. Within seconds, thick coils wrap around the victim, pressing down with an unimaginable squeeze. A full-grown antelope, a warthog, even a crocodile, all helpless in its grasp. One of the most chilling things about the African rock python is its ability to swallow something nearly twice its size. The snake's body expands, its jaw stretches beyond normal limits, and over hours, sometimes days, it devours its prey whole. There's even a confirmed case of a rock python swallowing a full-grown hyena, proving just how extreme its appetite can be. Unlike some of its more famous cousins, this python hasn't spread beyond its home. It stays where it belongs, deep in the wild where it continues its ancient way of hunting. But for those who venture too close, one thing is clear: this isn't a snake you want to surprise. Through the dense forests and misty wetlands of India, a quiet predator moves unseen. It doesn't chase, it doesn't roar, but it is one of the largest snakes on Earth. The Indian python, cousin to the Burmese python, is a 15-foot-long giant that thrives in the shadows. Unlike the more aggressive rock python or the monstrous anaconda, this snake is slow, almost lazy in its movements. But don't be fooled by its calm nature. When the moment comes, it is just as deadly. A deer steps too close, a monkey lingers on the ground, and in a flash, the python strikes. The bite is quick, just enough to hold its victim in place. Then the coils come, wrapping tighter with every breath, until nothing remains but silence. This snake is a master of patience. It can go weeks, even months without a meal. When it does eat, it takes its time, stretching its jaw to swallow prey that seems far too large. Peacocks, wild boars, even leopards have been found inside these massive serpents. Despite its size, the Indian python is disappearing. Habitat loss, poaching, and human conflict have pushed it to the edge. Many are killed for their skin, their meat, or simply out of fear. Yet in the untouched corners of the jungle, where ancient trees still stand and rivers still run wild, the Indian python remains. A silent giant, watching, waiting, and striking when no one expects it. That's about it. Write in the comments which snake impressed you the most. For more useful information, watch other videos.